It seems like often the people most loudly pushing dishonest narratives and theories know the least about the underlying facts of the situation they're supposed to be building their narrative off of. They're the one obsessing about this story or whatever, but don't seem to know the basic facts of that very story. And that's definitely the case with Maria Bartiromo, the Fox Business host, as I'm about to give you an example of. She did an interview with Republican Representative Greg Murphy, and they were responding to the news about Gal Luft, the star whistleblower for Republicans that was supposed to reveal Joe Biden as this corrupt guy, and he's a credible whistleblower. That's what we kept hearing. And then we learn that he's a fugitive when we get access to his unsealed indictment and learn that he's being accused of being an unregistered foreign agent on behalf of the Chinese, arms trafficking, violating U.S. sanctions against Iran, and making false statements to federal agents. Not exactly the credible whistleblower we were promised. And as they were talking about this, Maria Bartiromo reveals just how either little she understands or more accurately how willing to be dishonest she is in the way that she communicates the timeline of Gal Luft's indictment. And so I'll give you the information more on this afterwards if you're a little blurry on the details. But here's Maria Bartiromo talking about this fugitive whistleblower of Republicans trying to push the narrative that the reason he's a fugitive is because the Biden administration is going after him because he does have the evidence. I'll talk about why that's so bonkers after this.
See you this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Maria.
Is this realistic to move FBI headquarters to Alabama?
Sure. Administrations move different parts of agencies all the time. We did it back in North Carolina. So it's a good idea. I think it's a fascinating one because it gets you out of the swamp as it is in D.C. to get away from all the influence and actually so you can do your job and not be so influenced by politics. They shouldn't be being influenced by the politics of D.C.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what other levers you all have to pull. You're getting stonewalled left and right. Somebody's lying in terms of the Hunter Biden investigation. And you're not getting the witnesses that you need because many of them are getting intimidated. Gal Luft was just indicted.
Right. You know, and it just goes to show you, Maria, that it's one problem, and we see all of a sudden there's a huge problem. But then the DOJ, FBI now create another storm to hide that. It's very reminiscent of what happened in the early stages of Watergate, where there was one cover-up over another cover-up over another cover-up. It's going to blow.
Is he describing Trump's classified documents case?
Well, it's going to blow up at some point sooner than later. They can only cover up so much until somebody absolutely cracks.
So what you're hearing there, and the notable part of that was this little paragraph. She says, yeah, I mean, I don't know what other levers you have to pull. You're getting stonewalled left and right. Somebody's lying in terms of the Hunter Biden investigation, and you're not getting the witnesses you need because many of them are getting intimidated. Gal Luft was just indicted. Now, that kind of is a compelling story, right? So right now, the Republican House investigation's heating up. They're going to get the stuff from Gal Luft. It's about to come out. And so then, boom, he was indicted. But actually, he was indicted in November of 2022. He was then arrested in Cyprus this February and is now a fugitive after he fled while out of prison on bail, as Mediaite writes. So he was arrested in November of 2022 because they knew the investigation would heat up now? That doesn't make sense. He wasn't just indicted. We just found out and got the unsealed indictment. Right now, at least, the reporting around it just exploded. But the DOJ had been investigating Gal Luft since, I think it was 2019. So that's a really long play by the DOJ. Under the Trump administration, they started preparing to go after a guy who they knew was going to work with the House Republican majority that would later on come into power to defend Biden again under the Trump administration. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And these accusations from Gal Luft too have been around since before Biden got into office. The original bribery accusation came while Trump was president, while Bill Barr was Attorney General. Bill Barr was aware of the accusation, and it was looked into. It was brought to the attention of the FBI, and we can only assume, based on no investigation being opened into it, that it wasn't deemed to be legitimate enough, concerning enough, to actually take seriously, or more seriously than it was originally. And so a claim that comes from way back then is now being brought up now by this House majority. And then when we find out that the guy is a fugitive, they say, oh, that means he was just indicted right now. And that's Biden trying to go after the guy who's going to reveal everything to the House majority. It doesn't make sense, but it doesn't have to make sense. It's just about a compelling narrative. And I've talked about multiple times now recently, evidence matters in cases like this, accusations like this, but it's become, in especially right-wing media, an acceptable substitute for evidence to have a compelling narrative. That's it. A story that makes you go, oh, it could be that. If there was evidence for that, I could logically figure out why that would make sense. But see, there's not though. So just it making sense in your head of, oh, so this person could have done this and that could have been this. And the reason why we don't have evidence could be because it's being suppressed. And this is, but you actually have to prove things before you go on to say, as we talked about Nancy Mace saying recently, I think it was on yesterday's show, people need to know if Biden should be in prison. What? All you have are accusations. You actually have to have evidence to say something like that, or I think that should be the standard that we hold our leaders to. But apparently a lot of people don't agree with me. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are able to be uploaded to the YouTube channel, plus get the bonus show on the weekends, you can do so by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. That's lukebeasleyshow.com/membership, and there's a link in the description.